Hi, and welcome to the summary of Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is called Mrs. Pillai, Mrs. Eapen, and Mrs. Rajagopalan. Okay, and this particular title comes from an experience that Rahil and Esther have, and this experience can be defined as that moment when Rahil, Esther, and Sophie Mall actually became very close friends. And what they did is one weekend, while they were all playing, they decided to dress up in saris. They were wearing saris. They dressed up and they went to visit Velita in his home. And Velita also was a very, very interesting person because, instead of ignoring these children at their play, he welcomes them into their homes and, he acts like he is welcoming three ladies. Okay. And these names is how the children describe themselves. They call themselves as Mrs. Pillai, Mrs. Eapen, and Mrs. Rajagopalan. Okay. And in this particular chapter there is a mixture of the past and present coming in, all right, because the first image that she has is of this dress up play um, that happens, all right. And then she comes in between, she talks about the terror, the event that is the crux of our story, all right. And one important thing that happens in this chapter is that Rahel identifies Velita as the victim of that terror. All right, she gives an image of how he was found. And when they were playing this sari game, a week after that, Velita had allowed them to paint his nails red. Okay, he allowed them to put nail polish on his fingers and on his toes. And when he was found on the day of the terror by the policemen, his toes and fingers were painted red. And the policemen, when they found him, they uh, made fun of him for that, all right. And Rahel also says that in this particular terror, this particular event that happened, there were many perpetrators. That means there were many reasons for the people who were responsible for this particular thing happening, but there was only one victim, and that victim was Velita. All right. And due to whatever happened that day, what happens is that she describes something called as the hole in the universe. All right, that is a phrase that is often repeated in this particular novel, a hole in the universe. It is first repeated in one of the first chapters where, remember, when they were going to pick Sophie Mall, they were waiting at railway gate. They were waiting for the train to pass, and then Rahel talks about how frogs have been squished on the road, and there is a frog shaped hole. So for the children's in the children's imagination, whenever something is dead, all right, suppose a person or an animal or a thing is dead or it's gone from this world, it leaves a hole in the shape of that person. Okay, so when the frog is killed, there is a frog shaped hole, there is a Sophie Mall shaped hole. Okay, and here she talks about how there is a Velita shaped hole in the universe, and through this hole their mother also follows. Okay, remember in the past chapter we talked about uh, Ammu and how she died, and how her funeral was. So their mother followed Velta through that hole that he left in the universe, is what she says. All right. Then coming back to the present is where Rahel has a realization. She's sitting in the garden of Imenem house, and she realizes how damaged she and Esther are. All right. And she realizes that she is a person with no real identity. She has no real identity, and uh, she has no place, no home, and she sees both herself and Esther as lost souls. All right, lost souls. So she identifies her and Esther as lost souls with, they don't even have a way. They are utterly damaged. They are so damaged that they don't even have a way to bring out this anger that is there within them. All right. The terror or the thing that happened, that is the reason for all of this, is even more, remember I talked about pieces of a puzzle. So it becomes even more evident in this chapter as Arundhati Roy is giving us more clues about what happened. Okay, it involves the capturing of Velita when his nails are painted red, is another indication that we get. Okay, and we in the previous chapter already we saw that there is going to be some sort of relation between Ammu and Velita, and that is probably why she says that Ammu follows him through the hole in the universe. All right, so it also means that she does not help her children cope. her children are also disturbed with what have happened, but she dies and she leaves her children behind, and she does not help her children in any way to cope with what has happened with them. All right. And at the same time, Sophie Moll's entry into the Aymanem house and into the family is identified by Rahel as the point in which all the trouble began. All right. And she's always described as someone who is loved by everyone from the beginning, and she's also, you know, very um, let's say, yes, she's very confident about what she wants. All right. And she refuses to gel in with the family is very excited to see her. All right. But Rahel and Esther are also worried that she will take away everything that is her own, but she refuses to do all that. She does not try. And there is a part where the Rahel and Esther were the ones in the Ratrila, they would tie Mamachi's hair into a ponytail. All right. And Mamachi invites Sophie Moll to do so, but Sophie Moll declines. So the position of Rahel and Esther remains. Similarly, there are many different small things that the family members want to involve Sophie Moll into, which was before this it was done by Rahel and Esther. But Sophie Moll refuses to do all that. She refuses to take anything away from the twins. All right. And she is a very, even though she's also a child, she seems to be a very practical person who is not ready. Remember, we talked about how this entire Sophie Moll thing was a play in Rahel's head. So Sophie Moll refuses to be a part of this play, is what we can understand. The next chapter, chapter 10, is called The River in the Boat. Okay, and why this is, we'll come to this. Now, what you can do is, why I'm naming the chapters, because the chapter names are very important, as I told you in the very first video. So what you can do is, at the end of this complete novel, what you can do is you can note down the names of the chapters, and the chapter names are an indication to an event or something that happens in that particular chapter, and it helps us put the story together. So that is something that you can do. You can write down the names of the chapters and put a dash, and under that write down all the events that happen within that particular chapter. All right. And why that chapter is named so is also something that you can think about. So the next chapter, chapter 10, is called The River in the Boat. All right. And when this chapter opens, we are back at the arrival scene where Sophie Moll is arriving at Aymanem house. All right. And Rahel was with Velita. Remember, she was playing with Velita. But at this point, Esther is nowhere to be seen. Esther disappears. Okay. And the story finds him in the pickle factory, that Mamachi and Chaco own. All right. And what happens is that he is still very disturbed about what happened with the orange drink, lemon drink man. And he continuously feels afraid, thinking that what if this man comes and finds him here. Right. He's very afraid of, this man coming and finding him here. So what happens is that he wants to have a place where he can think, and there is so much of chaos in the house because Sophie Moll has come, so many people have come to see her. So he decides to go into the factory for a place to think in, and it seems like that is something that he continuously does. He goes to the factory to think. All right. And while he's there, he stirs the banana jam that is kept there, and he thinks two thoughts, is how Arundhati Roy describes it. Okay, it is three thoughts, but first he has two thoughts, and the third thought comes later. All right. The two thoughts that he has is that first one is that anything can happen to anyone. All right. Second one is it's best to be prepared. So from this only we can understand that he's very much disturbed by that event that happened with the orange drink, lemon drink man, and he's afraid that this man will follow him here, and he'll come into the house and Ammu will offer him tea, that he'll somehow find his way back to Esther. He's terrified, okay, as any child would be after such an encounter. And that is when he has the third thought. If this orange drink, lemon drink man does come into the house and he is invited into the house by his family, he needs a boat to row across the river. Okay, that is the third thought that he has. He needs a boat. All right. And this boat is needed to row across the river. He calls it as akkara. Okay, akkara povam vendi oru boat venam is what he thinks. And he thinks why this is because he wants a means to escape. So anything can happen to anyone. So it's okay. What has happened to him is okay, because anything can happen to anyone. But it's best to be prepared in case it happens again, in case this man comes again. And that's why he needs an escape route with the boat. All right. And Rahel comes looking for him, and he does not tell her what happened with the orange drink, lemon drink man, but he says that, these are the things that we want. We need a boat. All right. And we have to be prepared. So Rahel does not question all this. Okay. And he says that he wants to escape to the history house. And this is rather shocking for Rahel, because this history house has never been gone to. Remember, we talked about a little bit about history house. It was Kari Sahib's house. And Velya Papan, who is Velta's father, has spread stories about this history house being haunted. Okay, he says that once he has encountered a ghost while he was going there, and ആ ഗോസ്റ്റിനെ അവിടെ മരത്തിൽ തളച്ചു വെച്ചേക്കുകയാണ് വാക്കത്തി കൊണ്ട് എന്നൊക്കെയാണ് വലിയ പാപ്പൻ പറയുന്നത്. All right. And yes, that is what he says. And Velya Papan has claimed that he has seen Kari Sahib's ghost there, and he has he has pinned it to a tree. All right. So what happens is that Esther says that that's okay. What we will do is, when we go there, we'll take a communist flag, ഒരു റെഡ് ഫ്ലാഗ്, വെളുത്ത അന്ന് വീശിയ ഫ്ലാഗ് ഓർമ്മയുണ്ടല്ലോ. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു കമ്മ്യൂണിസ്റ്റ് ഫ്ലാഗ് കൊണ്ടുപോയാൽ we will be safe. Why? Because communists don't believe in ghosts. All right. So they decide that, and they decide to find that flag that those protesters had given to baby Kochama. So Rahel is then called for a nap, afternoon gnap she calls it. Okay. So she's called for a nap by Ammu, and she waits until Ammu falls asleep, and she escapes and meets Esther by the river, and they find a long boat. Okay, a boat that was for a very long time buried there. They wash it and clean it, but they realize that it has some holes and it is going to sink. So they carry it to Velta's hut so that he can fix it. Velta is someone who can fix everything. That is where they see Kuttappan, who is Velta's paralyzed brother. Remember, we talked about how Velta returned from wherever he was because his brother Kuttappan was paralyzed. Now, Kuttappan is described by Arundhati Roy as a good Paravan. Why? Because he's not educated. He does not try to go beyond his caste. All right. So that's why he's described as a good Paravan. And he's the only one who has a home. All right. But the twins are very used to being around Kuttappan, so they are playing with him, and that is when Velta comes in and they decide to mend the boat. And that is when Rahel remembers that she has to return before Ammu wakes up and finds her gone. All right. Throughout the chapter, we see that